Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we're on the fourth chapter of this book, Perfection of Yoga. This chapter's title is Yoga as Body and Mind Control. So the previous chapters we have seen how how Srila Prabhupada, quoting Lord Krishna from Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, speaks what actually is the purpose of yoga. So let us see. Throughout Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says, Krishna was encouraging Arjuna to fight, for he was a warrior. Fighting was his duty. Although Krishna delineates the meditational yoga system in the 6th chapter, he does not stress it or encourage Arjuna to pursue it as his path. So it is interesting that although Krishna speaks about different paths like karma and dhyana and jnana and different paths, but ultimately Krishna emphasizes Arjuna to surrender to his will and act as per the will of God. So this is what Prabhupada brings out, that, meditation is not the main thing that was presented in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna admits that this meditational process is very difficult. So in the earlier chapters, we saw how Arjuna admits that meditational process, dhyana yoga or astanga yoga, is very difficult. There Arjuna says that it's easier to control the wind than to control my mind. Here let's see what Krishna says. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Asamsayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam. So this is the key word. Mano Durnigraham Chalam. Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagena cha grahyate. The Blessed Lord said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by constant practice and detachment. So therefore, mind control, sense control is very difficult. But Krishna says that it is possible by abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagena cha grihate. Abhyasa means practice. And vairagya means detachment. So by trying to control the mind, practice, and being detached, that will help. Here Krishna emphasizes practice and renunciation as ways to control the mind. But what is that renunciation? Today it is hardly possible for us to renounce anything. Today's day and age, if you ask someone to give up something, people become very panicky. For we are so habituated to such a variety of material sense pleasures. Despite leading a life of uncontrolled sense indulgence, we attend a yoga class and expect to attain success. So here Prabhupada is criticizing the commercial yoga, where a person lives the life fully in sense enjoyment, then he goes for one yoga class and he thinks that I'll become successful as a yogi. When you're engaging in so much sense enjoyment, where's the question of being a yogi? Right? Where's the question of being renounced? So there are so many rules and regulations involved in the proper execution of yoga. Real yoga actually has so much rules and regulations. And most of us can hardly give up a simple habit like smoking. Here, Prabhupada drawing a contrast. You can't even give up smoking and you say you want to do yoga and follow all the rules and become, successful. It's very difficult in this age of Kali Yuga. In his discourse on the meditational yoga system, Krishna proclaims that yoga cannot be properly performed by one who eats too much or eats too little. One who starves himself cannot properly perform yoga, nor can the person who eats more than required. The eating process should be moderate, just enough to keep body and soul together. This theme of working to keep body and soul together comes again in Bhagavad Gita in a line. I think it's in the 2nd chapter or 1st chapter. Shariram kevalam karma. Shariram kevalam. How much karam, how much activity should you do? Shariram kevalam, just to maintain body and soul together. That's it. No other extraneous efforts is needed. It should not be for the enjoyment of the tongue. When palatable dishes come before us, we are accustomed to take not just one of the preparations, but 2, 3, 4, and upwards. Our tongue is never satisfied, but it is not unusual in India to see a yogi take only a small spoonful of rice a day and nothing more. So there are still such yogis who practice Ashtanga yoga and so many different things, and they have practiced for years together. They can just live on a little sustenance, that's it. Nor can one execute the meditational yoga system if one sleeps too much or does not sleep sufficiently. Right? So shloka comes here basically, the 6th chapter, 16th verse, right? Where Krishna says, Nati ashtanas, sorry, Nati ashnatastu yogosti naiche kantyam anashnata na chati swapna shilasya jagrato naiva charjuna. There is no possibility of one becoming a yogi, or Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or doesn't sleep enough. Right? Like they say, if you sleep so much, you become lazy. And if you sleep little, you become crazy. So it's not possible. Everything has to be balanced. Krishna does not say that there is such a thing as dreamless sleep. Now, this statement of Prabhupada is very interesting because at the time, if can just understand that it's 1960s, 1970s, early 1970s. There are so many yoga schools in America, and many yogis are actually putting forward what is called as yoga nidra. Yoga nidra. Nidra means sleep, mystical slumber, mystical sleep. They say certain things that, if you fall asleep and you have no dreams, that is real sleep. Your body is fully energized. But if you fall asleep and you're dreaming, right, that means you're not sleeping properly. So they say, come, let us teach you yoga, yoga nidra, the art of becoming master of your sleep. If you're a master, you have no dreams. But if you have dreams, you're a slave. They say some things like this. So then Prabhupada, here wants to hit back at such people who are, the purpose of yoga, like we saw in a few chapters ago of this book, is ultimately to learn to love and serve God, not just for becoming healthy or, being disciplined. These are all side effects. Main purpose of yoga is to know and love and serve God. So here Prabhupada says, Krishna does not say such a thing, that there is dreamless sleep, yoga nidra. Because as soon as we go to sleep, we will have a dream, although we may not remember it. So the difference is that you may not remember what you have, but the mind is always active. Basic principle is you cannot switch off the mind, because the mind is part of the consciousness. If you are alive, you have a mind. Just like, can you remove ego? No, right? Because we have this soul, we have this body, it comes together with it. Mind, ego, intelligence. Prabhupada continues, in the Gita, Krishna cautions that one who dreams too much while sleeping cannot properly execute yoga. One should not sleep more than 6 hours daily, right? Nowadays, people, when they hear this, they get panicked. What? I thought I can sleep for 8 hours. Sometimes in our universities and hostels, there's a sleeping competition. Boys on their day off from class, they sleep 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours, right? Nor can one be infected by insomnia. Insomnia is when one cannot sleep, right? Sleep deprivation. Who cannot sleep at night successfully execute yoga. So either one who sleeps more than 6 hours or one who cannot sleep at night. Both cannot become a yogi. For the body must be kept fit, right? All this requires discipline in life. So when we come to Krishna consciousness, our food is disciplined, our lifestyle is disciplined, because we need this body to do service to the Lord. So it's very important. Thus, Krishna outlines so many requirements for disciplining the body. All these requirements, however, can essentially be broken down into 4 basic rules. What are the basic rules? These are 4 principles, regulatory principles we will follow. No illicit sexual connection, no intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling. By avoiding all this, automatically all the urges of the senses and mind, they come down, right? And one can be a little more focused and disciplined in one's life. These are the 4 minimum regulations for the execution of any yoga system. Sadly, there are many people who become yogis and do yoga, but they engage in all these 4 things. And in this age, who can refrain from these activities? These 4 things are everywhere. They're being promoted even by government, by authorities, by state, by medical boards, by educational boards. Everyone is promoting these 4 things. We have to test ourselves accordingly to ascertain our success in yoga's execution. Yogi yunjita satatam atmanam rahasi stita ekaki yata chittatma nirasherapi aparigraha. A transcendentalist should always try to concentrate his mind on the Supreme Self. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from the desires and feelings of possessiveness. From this verse, we can understand that it is the duty of the yogi to always remain alone. This also we saw this discussion in the earlier chapter. The difference between yoga and mantra yoga, Harinam Sankirtan. In Sankirtan, we want more people together. In this Dhyana yoga or Ashtanga yoga, they want you to remain alone. The difference. Meditational yoga cannot be performed in an assembly, at least not according to Bhagavad Gita. But today's yoga schools, you have like 100 people, 50 people coming together doing yoga. In a meditational system, it is not possible to concentrate the mind upon the super soul except in a secluded place. In India, there are still many yogis who assembled at the Kumbh Mela. Okay, Kumbh Mela is once in every 4 years, every year also, but once in every 4 years, a Maha Kumbh Mela. Once in every 12 years, the Maha Kumbh Mela. So these 4 places in India, Ujjain, Nasik, Allahabad, and Haridwar or Prayag, I think, forgot. So for these places, these Kumbh Mela activities come. So generally they are in seclusion. These yogis who come to Kumbh Mela, the whole year they are in seclusion. But on rare occasions, they come to attend special functions. In India, there are still thousands of yogis and sages, and every 12 years or so, they meet in particular holy places, Allahabad, etc. Right? So, so the yogis are generally secluded, but they come together once in a while. Just as in America, they have businessmen's conventions. So Prabhupada says Kumbh Mela's yogi convention. The yogi, in addition to living in a secluded place, should also be free from desires and should not think that he is performing yoga to achieve some material powers. These material powers that they achieve are a side effect. It's not the goal. Nor should he accept gifts or favors from people. Generally, you see these yogis are very adverse to talking to people. If he is properly executing the meditational yoga, he stays alone in the jungles, forests, or mountains and avoids society altogether. Now, hearing all these descriptions, how many one of us are interested to do this yoga, this real yoga? At all times, he must be convinced of whom he has become a yogi. He does not consider himself alone, but at all times, the Paramatma, the super soul, is with him, Antaryami, the Lord in the heart. From this, we can see that in modern civilization, it is indeed very difficult to execute this meditational form of yoga properly. So in this case, people who go for meditation, this and that, are probably kind of like cheating themselves, because this is not what Bhagavad Gita says about yoga. Contemporary civilization in this age of Kali has actually made it impossible for us to be alone, to be desireless, and to be possessionless. Practically difficult. So then the method of executing meditational yoga is further explained in considerable detail by Krishna to Arjuna. So Krishna says, so now the full verses of all the descriptions given in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada kind of like, someone may not reach Bhagavad Gita, but by reading Prabhupada's small book, at least you would have covered some shlokas. Sushau deshe pratistapya stiram asinam atmana nati uchitram nati nicham chailajna kushotaram. I think last session we had seen this verse, that one should sit in a clean place, not too high, not too low. Tatraikagram manakritva yata chittendriya kriya upavishyasane yunjat yogam atma vishuddhaye. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. So this is what is expected. The seat should not be too high, not too low, should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and should practice yoga by controlling the mind and senses, purifying the heart and fixing the mind on one point, tip of the nose. Generally, yogis sit on tiger skin or deer skin because reptiles will not crawl on such skins to disturb their meditation. So it is said that if you see, tiger skin or deer skin, when yogis sit on it, somehow this skin emanates some kind of aura or aroma, I'm not sure, but it's said that snakes do not come. So the yogi does not need to worry sitting down in one place so long, any animals would come to it. It seems that in God's creation, there is a use for everything. Prabhupada is reflecting on this. Every grass and herb has its use and serves some function, although we may know not what it is. So it is so brilliant, no? How deer skin and tiger skin, they have this utility. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has made some provision whereby the yogi does not have to worry about snakes. Having acquired a good sitting place in a secluded environment, the yogi begins to purify the Atma. Atma again means how many things? Body also means Atma, mind also means Atma, and soul also means Atma. So these three things the yogi starts to purify. The yogi should not think, now I will try to achieve some wonderful powers. No, the yogi does not bother about that. Sometimes yogis do attain certain siddhis or powers, but these are not the purpose of yoga. These are, like I said, side effects. Right? And real yogis do not exhibit them. The real yogi thinks, I am now contaminated by this material atmosphere. Now I must purify myself. So by practice, they do get some powers, but they're not bothered about these powers. We can quickly see that controlling the mind and body is not such an easy thing, and that we cannot control them as easily as we can go to the store and purchase something. It's not that you can just go and buy. Can you please give me 1 kilo of sense control? Maybe about a half kilo of renunciation. It's not that you can just purchase it. Okay. But Krishna indicates that these rules can be easily followed when we are in Krishna consciousness. So Krishna consciousness, Krishna bhakti is so powerful, one stroke solution. We do not have the ability to be renounced or the ability to control our mind and senses. But by being Krishna conscious, automatically, just like when a person becomes a devotee and takes up seriously to bhakti, automatically the person eats only prasadam. That means no onion, no garlic, totally vegetarian, and offered to Krishna automatically. So then where is the question of being vegetarian separately? No need. One needs to just become a devotee. Right? And as being a devotee, devotees wake up early because they need to chant their rounds. So automatically that is also taken care. If you wake up early, you will sleep early. That's also automatically taken care. No separate endeavor. Of course, everyone is motivated by sex life. But sex life is not actually discouraged. We have this material body, and as long as we have it, sex desire will be there. Similarly, as long as we have the body, we must eat to maintain it, and we must sleep in order to give it rest. So speaking about the sex desire, there's a verse in Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, 11th verse, where Krishna says what kind of sex desire is allowed. Balam balavatam chaham kama raga vivarjitam dharma avirudho bhuteshu kamosmi bhartarashava. So Krishna says, I am the strength of the strong, okay, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. That means the institution of marriage, in which sex life is there. So such an institution of marriage for the sake of begetting children, that is okay, right? Procreation is fine. Recreation is not allowed. You cannot do enjoyment in that. Recreation is not allowed. Procreation is allowed. Okay, so that kind of sex life is considered dharma avirudha, which is not against the dharma. We cannot expect to negate these activities, but the Vedic literatures do give us guidelines for regulation in eating, sleeping, mating, etc. So if you want to eat prasadam, eat vegetarian. If you want to sleep, right, sleep 6 hours. If you want to do mating, then get married and have a child. If we at all expect success in the yoga system, we cannot allow our unbridled senses to take us down the paths of sense objects. Therefore, guidelines are set up. Right? So Prabhupada is saying that we cannot just, allow our mind to do whatever it wants. There must be some rules. Lord Sri Krishna is advising that the mind can be controlled through regulation. If we do not regulate our activities, our mind will be more and more agitated. So someone may ask, what is the purpose of all these rules? This is just to cool and soothe the mind. Else the mind will always be more agitated. It is not that these activities are to be stopped, but regulated by the mind always engaged in Krishna consciousness. So desire to eat is there. Cook something purely, offer it to Krishna and honor that prasadam. In that way, our senses and mind become regulated. Being always engaged in some activity connected with Krishna is actual samadhi. Like for the devotees of the Lord, they're constantly thinking of how I can serve Krishna. I have this services to do. I have that service to do. The whole day, practically from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. is busy, right? Serving Krishna. So this is called actual samadhi, where one is completely focused in the service of the Lord. It is not that when one is in samadhi, he does not eat, work, sleep, or enjoy. No. Rather, samadhi can be defined as executing regulative activities while absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna. So the devotees of the Lord, whole day they are running around serving Krishna, they are eating, they are sleeping, they are doing all activities. But the back of the mind, a constant thought in the mind is what? Serving Krishna. Why do you wake up early in the morning? Because I need to serve Krishna. Why are you chanting Hare Krishna? Because I need to serve Krishna. Why are you taking a cold bath? Because I need to serve Krishna. Right? So the mind is constantly thinking, I need to serve Krishna. Prabhupada quotes another verse from the 6th chapter. Asamyatatmana yogo duspraptya iti me mati vashyatmana tu yatata shakyo vyaptim upayatah. For one whose mind is unbridled, that means uncontrolled, Krishna further says, self-realization is very difficult. Duspraptya, very difficult. Anyone knows that an unbridled horse is dangerous to ride. A horse which does not have a harness to control, right? Just a horse, you just jump on it, very dangerous. He can go in any direction at any speed, and his rider is likely to come to some harm. Insofar as the mind is unbridled, Krishna agrees with Arjuna that the yoga system is very difficult work indeed. But Krishna adds, he whose mind is controlled and strives by right means is assured of success. That is my judgment. What is meant by strives by right success? What does it mean? You work according to the right way. One has to try to follow the 4 basic regulative principles as mentioned and execute his activities absorbed in Krishna consciousness. This is the right way to endeavor. Endeavor in the right way means endeavor to follow the 4 regulative principles and endeavor to be absorbed in Krishna. If one wants to engage in yoga at home, then he has to make certain that his other engagements are moderate. He cannot spend long hours of the day working hard to simply earn a livelihood. Yoga itself is a full-time job, right? You cannot have another job where I need to go to work, then come home and do yoga. Doesn't make sense. One should work very moderately, eat very moderately, gratify the senses moderately, and keep his life as free as from anxiety as possible. This is actually the purpose of life. Today's day and age, modern day, everyone just works overtime, like 12 hours, 14 hours. They eat, hardly they eat. I know so many professional people who eat noodles, this Maggie and this and that, very pathetic. They earn so much, but they eat fast food, right? Gratify the senses moderately. People are into ati indriya bhoga, too much sense gratification. People spend so much money, take a flight, go to a foreign country just to do the same things they'll be doing in this country also, right? So much endeavor is there. So one should keep one's life very simple, very cool, very calm. It does not take much to live, to survive. It does not take much. All the artificial things created by society, name, fame, career, it does not exist actually. But life should be very cool so that mind can always think about Krishna. That is the real yoga. In this way, practice of yoga may be successful. What is the sign by which we can tell that one has attained perfection in yoga? How do you know if someone is a yoga siddha, perfected yoga? Krishna indicates that one is situated in yoga when his consciousness is completely under his control. Yada vineyatam chittam atmanevavashishyate nisparha sarvakamebhyo yukta iti uchyate tada. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities, his mind, and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to have attained yoga. Right? When one does not have desires. So the problem in this world is people are so much desirous. Someone gets this, I also want that, I also want this, I also need that, this is not enough, try and try. But a devotee is relaxed. He has no desires. I need this, I want that. One who has attained yoga is not dependent on the dictations of the mind. Rather, the mind comes under his control. Right? Sometimes you see people who do thievery, who do robbing or stealing some things. It's because their mind is not under their control. They know it's wrong, but still they do it. Nor is the mind put out or extinguished, for it is the business of the yogi to think of Krishna or Vishnu always. Right? You cannot destroy the mind also. Sometimes some people from other schools like Buddhists and all, they say that one should destroy the mind. The yogi cannot allow his mind to go out. This may sound very difficult, but it is possible in Krishna consciousness. When one is always engaged in Krishna consciousness, in the service of Krishna, then how it is possible for the mind to wander away from Krishna? Like I said, from 4 a.m. till 10 p.m., one is constantly serving Krishna, thinking of this and that. How one will think of something other than Krishna? Everything one does, eating, sleeping, is all for Krishna. In the service of Krishna, the mind is automatically controlled. This is a beautiful statement. In the service of Krishna, the mind is automatically controlled. So many people come, they say that, Prabhuji, my mind is not controlled. I can't think straight. And because of that, I can't study. I can't focus. So practice bhakti, become a devotee and automatically live a disciplined life around Krishna, centering around Krishna, and your mind will be controlled. Nor should the yogi have any desire for material sense gratification. If one is in Krishna consciousness, he has no desire other than Krishna. It is not possible to become desireless. The desire for sense gratification must be overcome by the process of purification. So desire for sense gratification is selfish, and we can overcome that desire by desiring something for Krishna, desiring for the service of Krishna. That is selfless. But desire for Krishna should be cultivated. It is simply that we have to transfer the desire. Desire is always there. We can end desire. Instead of desiring for something selfish, desire for something selfless. There is no question of killing desire. The desire is the constant companion of the living entity. Soul means to desire. Now, whether you desire the right thing or not, that's up to us. Krishna consciousness is the process by which one purifies his desires. Instead of desiring so many things for sense gratification, one simply desires things for the service of Krishna. Prabhupada gives an example. We may desire palatable food, but instead of preparing foodstuffs for ourselves, we can prepare them for Krishna and offer them to him. Same process of cooking, same process of cutting, but the purpose is different. We are cooking for Krishna. So one will automatically keep very clean. One will not taste in between cooking because one thinks that this is going to go to Krishna first. So it's not that the action is different, Prabhupada says, but there is a transfer of consciousness from thinking or acting for my senses to thinking of acting for Krishna. So the action, there's no difference in the action, but there's difference in the intention. We may prepare nice milk products, vegetable, grains, fruits, and other vegetarian dishes for Krishna and then offer them to him praying. This material body is a lump of ignorance and the senses are a network of paths leading to death. Of all the senses, the tongue is the most ferocious and difficult to control. It is very difficult to conquer the tongue in this world. Therefore, Sri Krishna has given us this nice prasada, spiritual food, to conquer the tongue. So let us take this prasada to our full satisfaction and glorify their lordships, Sri Sri Radha Krishna, and in love call for the help of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu. So any practicing devotee who reads this will know this is our Mahaprasadam prayers. Sharira advidyajal, jadindriya tahekal, jive fele visaya sagare, tara modye jiva ati. Lobhomoya sudurmate take jeta kutina samsare, Krishna bada doyamoy. Krishna is very merciful. Pure baure jiva jai. He has given us the means to deliver the tongue. Swaprasad anadhilo bhai. Take this prasadam. Swaprasad anadhilo bhai. Then Radha Krishna Gunagao Premedako Chaitanya Nitai. Like that. This is a translation coming from our prasadam prayers that we recite before honoring prasadam. In this way, our karma is sacrificed. From the very beginning, we are thinking that the food is being offered to Krishna. Right? We should have no personal interests, desires for the food. Krishna is so merciful, however, that he gives us the food to eat. In this way, our desire is fulfilled. When one has molded his life in such a way, dovetailing his desires to Krishna's, then it is understood that he has attained perfection in yoga, right? So this is the way that we offer everything towards Krishna. Simply breathing deeply and doing some exercises is not yoga. Yeah, Prabhupada says simply, Kapalbhati, whatever. It's not yoga, Prabhupada says. As far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned, it is just one small part. It's not really yoga. The whole purification of consciousness is required. We see nowadays people who do yoga, they want to keep their health and body fit. For what? For sense gratification. They want to go and enjoy it. In the execution of yoga, it is very important that the mind is not agitated. The mind should be very cool. One more verse in the sixth chapter. Yata dipo nivatasto ningate sopama smrta yogino yata chittasya yunjato yogam atmanah. As the lamp in a windless place does not waver, the lamp flames, remains very steady. So the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation in the transcendental self. When a candle is in a windless place, its flame remains straight and does not waver. The mind, like the flame, is susceptible to so many material desires that with the slightest agitation, it will move. A little movement of the mind can change the whole consciousness. Therefore, in India, once seriously practicing yoga, traditional remained brahmachari or celibate. So the mind is not disturbed because mind is like a flame, and if you have so many thoughts, the mind keeps wavering. Right? Very difficult. Prabhupada continues to say there are two kinds of brahmachari. One is a complete celibate, what is called as a naishtika brahmachari, and the other is a grihastha brahmachari, or what is called as a upakurvana brahmachari. Both are brahmacharis in the sense that both only naishtika brahmachari does not at all engage in physical activity, and upakurvana brahmachari or a grihastha brahmachari is a devotee who gets married but only uses the senses for begetting a child. That is to say, he has a wife. He does not associate with any other women, and his relations with his own wife are strictly regulated. In this way, either by complete celibacy or restricted sex life, one's mind is kept from being agitated. So even the Grihastha Brahmachari only remains with his wife or bees with his wife just to have child, not for any other this thing. Yet when one takes a vow to remain complete celibate, his mind still may be agitated by sexual desire. Therefore, in India, those practicing the traditional yoga under strict vows of celibacy are not allowed to sit alone, even with mother, sister, daughter. The mind is so fickle that the slightest suggestion can create havoc. So it is the reality of the mind, how the mind can be cheated and become lusty, even in such incidents. This is actually quoting from a verse in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th canto, 19th chapter, 17th verse. Matra swasra duhitra va. Matra means mother, swasra means sister, duhitra means daughter. Na viviktasano bhavet. Na aviviktasana. Don't sit privately, don't sit secularly, very close to mother, very close to sister, very close to daughter. No. Balavan indriyam gramo. The senses are so balavan, very strong. Vidvamsam api karshati. Someone may think, no, I'm very smart. I'm not like this. Here, Bhagavan warns that if you think, okay, my senses are strong, be careful. Even the strong person is swept away. If you say, no, I'm not only strong, I'm smart also. I will never do like this. Vidvamsam api karshati. Even an intelligent person is swept away. So whether you think you're strong, whether you think you're too smart, be careful. Matra, swasra, duhitra. Some provocation will come in the mind and one will be swept away. Right? Very serious this process is. The yogi should have his mind trained in such a way that as soon as his mind wanders from meditation of Vishnu, he drags it back again. So every morning when we are chanting Hare Krishna, chanting, and sometimes our mind wanders. Again, no, listen. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Each word, each syllable, we try to pull back our mind. In this way, we are training the mind. This requires a great deal of practice. One must come to know that his real happiness is in experiencing the pleasure of his transcendental senses, not material centers. Senses are not to be sacrificed, and desires are not to be sacrificed. but they are both desires and sense gratification in the spiritual sphere. So don't think that you can stop desiring. Don't think you can stop sense gratification. Not possible. Purify it. Purify your desires, purify your senses. Real happiness is transcendent to material sensual experience. If one is not convinced of this, he will surely be agitated and will fall down. Right? If one does not believe all this, one can fall down from spiritual life. One should therefore know that the happiness he is trying to derive from material senses is not really happiness. The senses, the happiness that we get from sense objects is not really happiness because it's temporary, illusionary. Those who are actually yogis truly enjoy. But how do they enjoy? So, when you say that I'm restraining from all these things, where's my enjoyment? Krishna says, Ramante yoginonte. Their enjoyment is unlimited. Anante. That unlimited enjoyment is real happiness. And such happiness is spiritual, not material. Ramante. They're enjoying that which is anante, anantam. This is the real meaning of Rama, as in the chant Hare Rama, now mantra. Rama means enjoyment through spiritual life. So Hare Krishna. Krishna means Sarvam Akarshiti iti Krishna, he who attracts. And Hare Rama. Rama means Ramante Yogino Nante, he who gives all pleasure, who is always enjoying. That's what Rama here means in the mantra. Spiritual life is all pleasure and Krishna is all pleasure. We do not have to sacrifice pleasure, do not give up pleasure, but we have to enjoy it properly. So this is also important, beautiful line. Many times people think when you become a devotee, you are giving up so many things, you're losing so many things. No, we are just enjoying it properly, right? Someone who drinks, someone who smokes, someone who eats meat, they're actually suffering. They're not enjoying. They think they're enjoying, actually they're suffering. But a person who becomes a devotee, he's enjoying, but enjoying properly. Prabhupada gives an example. A diseased man cannot enjoy life. His enjoyment of life is a false enjoyment. Right? Sometimes people are so diseased, they cannot eat through the mouth. They have to put a tube through the stomach. You say he's also eating, his stomach gets full, he's also happy. But what is the enjoyment there? It's a false enjoyment, putting a tube through the stomach. But when he is cured and he is healthy, then he is able to enjoy. Similarly, as long as we are in the material conception of life, we are not actually enjoying ourselves, but we are simply becoming more and more entangled in material nature. If a sick man is not supposed to eat, his eating unrestrictedly actually kills him. Right? We need to purify ourselves and come back to our original position of being a devotee of Krishna. That's actually real happiness. Similarly, the more we increase material enjoyment, the more we become entangled in this world. And the more difficult it becomes to get free from material entrapment. The more we try to enjoy our senses, the more we get stuck in it. We cannot come out of it. All of the systems of yoga are meant to disentangle the conditioned soul from this entrapment, to transfer him from the false enjoyment of material things to the actual enjoyment of Krishna consciousness. This is a beautiful line. All the systems of yoga, the whole karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, this is the purpose. Sri Krishna says, now Prabhupada quotes a series of verses from the 6th chapter. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyan atmani tushyati sukham atyantikam yattat buddhigramam atindriyam veti yatra na chaya vayam stitas chalati tatvataha yam labdva chaparam labam manyate nadikam tata yasmin stito na dukkena gurunapi vichalyate tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samyitam. So this is all from 6th chapter. In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from mental activities by practice of yoga. This is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness and enjoys himself through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth. And upon gaining this, he thinks there is nothing greater to gain. This is the best thing I've achieved in my life. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of great difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries, arising from material contact. So this is what yoga is, what samadhi is. One has no fearlessness, one is not worried, one is not attached, and one is happy, and one feels that having this, there is nothing better to get out of this. One form of yoga may be difficult and another may be easy, but in all cases, one must purify his existence to the conception of Krishna's enjoyment, Krishna conscious enjoyment. Then one will be happy. Prabhupada continues. Yada hinendriyartesu nakarmesu anusajjate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga rudasta dochyate ga udaret atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hi atmano bandhur atmaiva ripur atmanah. This is the beginning verses of 6th chapter. A person is said to have attained yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities, karmic activities. A man must elevate himself by his own mind, not degrade himself. Another beautiful line. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. If we can control the mind is our friend. But if we cannot control our mind is our enemy. We have to raise ourselves to the spiritual standard by ourselves. Ultimately, when we fall down, who is the first person to help to pick us up? We. We only should learn to pick ourselves up. In this sense, I am my own friend and I am my own enemy. Isn't it? Nobody else is my friend, nobody else is my enemy. I myself am my own friend, I myself am my own enemy. The opportunity is yours. Sorry, the opportunity is ours, Prabhupada is saying. There is a nice verse by Chanakya Pandit. No one is anyone's friend, no one is anyone's enemy. It is only by behavior that you can understand who is a friend and who is his enemy. Right? You can only see by how people act. It's not that actually someone is a friend or enemy. No one is born our enemy and no one is born our friend. The roles are determined by mutual behavior, how we deal with others. That is what creates enemy. That is what creates friendship. A very beautiful verse. As we have dealings with others in ordinary affairs, in the same way the individual has dealings with himself. I may act as my own friend or as my enemy. Right? Have you all experienced sometimes when we are thinking, there's a dialogue going on in our mind. We are thinking of something, we are saying something, then the thinking comes something, then dialogue requires two people. So actually, this is the intelligence and the mind they are discussing. Right? That's why there's two different faculties. And we are the sole, neutral witness to all this. And the mind is suggesting something, intelligence is dismissing it, intelligence is suggesting something, mind desires something else. So, as a friend, I can understand my position as a spirit soul and see that somehow or other, I have come into contact with material nature. Try to get free from material entanglement by acting in such a way as to disentangle myself. Right? So, after realizing that I'm a spirit soul stuck in this material world, we should try to come out of it, not get further entangled by it. In this case, I am my friend. If we try to come out of it, we actually our friend. We are friendly to our own existence. But if even after getting this opportunity, I do not take it. So many people come to Krishna conscious, but they don't take it seriously. Then I should be considered my own worst enemy. Why? You had a chance to improve yourself. You had a chance to become a better person. But you yourself just gave it up. That means you are your own worst enemy. Bandhur atmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jitah anatmanastu shatrutve vartitatmaiva shatruvat. For he who has conquered the mind is best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his very mind will be his greatest enemy. Beautiful. How is it possible for one to become his own friend? This is explained here. Atma means mind, body, soul. When we speak of Atma, insofar as we are in the bodily conception, we refer to the body. Atma means say mind. When I say this is mind, actually I'm thinking what? Body only, right? However, when we transcend the bodily conception and rise to the mental platform, Atma refers to the mind. So there's bodily platform, mental platform, then intelligence platform, right? The spiritual platform. So when we transcend the body, then Atma refers now to mind. Atma means self. Atma in Sanskrit means self. So what self? So on the lower stage, we think the self means body. A little higher stage, we think self means mind. Higher than that, we think self means intelligence. But ultimately, real self is soul. But actually, when we are situated on truly spiritual platform, Atma refers to the soul. In actuality, we are pure spirit in this way. According to one's spiritual development, the meaning of the word Atma differs. As far as the Nirukti Vedic dictionary is concerned, Atma refers to body, mind, and soul. So Atma can refer to three things, depend on the context in our consciousness, what we are relating to. However, in this verse of Bhagavad Gita, Atma refers to mind. Okay. If through yoga the mind can be trained, then the mind is our friend. But if the mind is left untrained, then there is no possibility of leading a successful life. So how to know if our mind is trained or not? So many people, when you ask them, is your mind controlled? They say, yes, 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 yes. So you ask them to sit down with you, take the japa mala, chant Hare Krishna, every mantra, start pulling the beads, and slowly you will see they start shaking. They start, they can't sit. The legs are going here and there, face is looking here and there. Mind is uncontrolled. And even if you sit together and chant both same time, you will see that sometimes people are finishing the mala early, sometimes people are left behind. Why? There's no focus. Right? So it's not so easy. If you want to really test whether my mind is controlled, try taking a japa mala and chanting Hare Krishna. For one who has no idea of spiritual life, the mind is his enemy. If one thinks that he is simply the body, his mind will not be working for his benefit. It will simply be acting to serve the gross body and to further the condition of the living entity entrapped him in material nature. If, however, one understands one's position as the spirit soul apart from the body, the mind can be a liberating factor. In itself, the mind has nothing to do. It simply is waiting to be trained. And it is the best trained through association. Desire is the function of the mind, and one desires according to his association. So if the mind is to act as a friend, there must be good association, right? You can imagine mind like a canvas, and all our interactions are like paint. You cover it, you're painting it with different paints, right? So be careful what you paint your mind with. The best association is a sadhu, that is, a Krishna conscious person or one who is striving for spiritual realization. There are those who are striving for temporary things, asat. Matter and body are temporary. And if one only engages himself for bodily pleasure, he is conditioned by temporary things. But if he engages himself in self-realization, then he is engaged in something permanent, sat. Obviously, if one is intelligent, he will associate with those who are trying to elevate themselves to the platform of self-realization through one of the various yoga systems. So when someone asks you to choose, you want sat or you want asat? Intelligent person will say, let me want something eternal, isn't it? Everyone wants a permanent home. No one likes a rented house. Everyone wants a permanent job. No one likes a contract job, right? Everyone wants a permanent settlement. No one wants some settlement which drags on. So we all desire for sat, eternal. The result will be that those who are sadhu or realized will be able to sever his attachment to material association. Chindanti, Kovidastasya, Ona Kuryat. Right? This is the great advantage of good association. So we tell people, no, if really they are serious about bhakti, they really want to become devotees, then the main thing they must always do is take association. For instance, Krishna speaks Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna just to cut off his attachment to this material affection. Because Arjuna is attracted to things that are impeding the execution of his duty, Krishna severs these things. So Arjuna was so falsely attracted to his kinsmen, family, this and that, thinking they are eternal. And then Krishna is like, what are you thinking eternal? Today you came from this family. Where were you yesterday? Where were you 10 years before, 20 years before, 30 years before, 100 years before? Where were you? They were not there. You were not there. Temporarily now you have come together. And after how long? After some time you're going to depart. So where is there then the question that these are my family forever, ever, forever, ever, ever? Not possible. To cut something, a sharp instrument is required. Now when you use the word cut, that itself very painful, isn't it? And to cut the mind from its attachment, sharp words are often required. Right? Sometimes the devotee speaks very heavy, speaks very harshly. Shastra is very blunt. Why? Sharp, to cut. Sadhu Vakya, Sat Vakya is very heavy. The sadhu or teacher shows no mercy in using sharp words to sever the student's mind from material attraction. Sometimes you see Srila Prabhupada when he gives lecture, he says, fools and rascals. Prabhupada says like that. Oh, the person is so foolish, he is like a pig eating stool, enjoying this world, and he thinks he's very happy. Some people hearing this, my God, why is he using so heavy language? Because to the time you do not cut the person's attachment, they will not listen. By speaking the truth compromisingly, he will never able to sever the bondage. Now, if you try to just pamper people. For example, at the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks sharply to Arjuna by telling him, although he speaks like a learned man, he is actually fool number one. Klaibyam, he calls him. Klaibyam means, Arjuna, you're an impotent eunuch. Right? He tells her, you're an important man. Don't you have any prowess? He speaks so heavy to Arjuna. If we actually want detachment from this material world, we should be prepared to accept such cutting words from the spiritual master. Compromise and flattery have no effect where strong words are required. Beautiful line. To help a person, sometimes you need to be little sharp. Prabhupada in another place gives the example of a surgeon. A surgeon takes a knife and cuts the patient's body. Why? To make him suffer? To help him. If I want to make you better, I need to cut you. So like that, Prabhupada draws an example. In Bhagavad Gita, the material conception of life is condemned in so many places. One who thinks the country in which he is born is worshipable, or one who goes to a holy place and yet ignores the sadhus there, he is likened onto an ass, a donkey. Right? Why do I like, why this country is great? Because I am born in this country. Those who are born in India will say, Mera Bharat Mahan, my country is great. And again, that same person, if he's born in Pakistan, he will say, Pakistan Zindabad. Right? So you get attachment to the land because of you taking birth in that land. So actually, it's not the land that is great. When you say, my land is great, secretly, in our mind, we are saying, what? Why my land is great? Because I am great. I am born here. As an enemy is always thinking of doing harm, so the untrained mind will drag one deeper and deeper into material entanglement. Conditioned souls struggle very hard, and the mind and with the other senses. Since the mind directs the other senses, it is the utmost important to make the mind a friend. So, jitatmana prashantatma paramatma samahita sitoshna sukha dukkesu tata manapamana yoho. For one who has conquered mind, the spiritual soul is already achieved. For he has attained tranquility. So we saw this in the last chapter also, this quotation. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. By training the mind, one actually attains tranquility, peace. For the mind is always dragging us over non-permanent things, just as an unbridled horse will pull a chariot in a perilous course. So if our mind is actually controlled, we are willing to accept reversals in life. Difficulty comes, goodness comes, problem comes, solution comes. We are happy in all conditions. Why? Because the mind is stable. Although we are permanent and eternal, somehow or other we have become attracted to non-permanent things. We are Sat, but we are attracted to Asat. But the mind can be easily trained if it's simply fixed on Krishna. Just as a fort is safe when it is defended by a great general. If Krishna is placed in the fort of the mind, so when we meditate on Krishna, we are asking Krishna, please control my mind. Krishna, please come and situate in my mind. So when Krishna is present, then we have safety. There will be no possibility of the enemies entering. Material education, wealth, power will not help one control the mind. That's why we see sometimes even educated people committing suicide, even rich people, successful people. Why? They cannot control their mind. A great devotee prays, when will I be able to think of you constantly? My mind is always dragging me about, but as soon as I'm able to fix my mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, it becomes clear. When the mind is clear, it is possible to meditate on the super soul. The Paramatma or super soul is always seated within the heart, along with the individual soul. The yoga system involves concentrating the mind and focusing it on Paramatma or super soul, seated within the heart. The previously quoted verse from Bhagavad Gita indicates that one who has conquered the mind and has overcome all attachment to non-permanent things can be absorbed in the thought of Paramatma. One so absorbed becomes free from all duality and false designations. So this chapter very brilliantly speaks about the importance of mind control, sense control, and yoga as a means to it, but not the meditational yoga because it's very tough for us, but devotional yoga, bhakti yoga, where directly we solve the problem by focusing 24 hours on Krishna. In such a way, actually one can become situated in real yoga. So we'll end here. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.